Sometimes the key to communicating is how you don't talk. Hey, I am Chuck the Bureaucrat, and in an earlier video, I showed you how to take advantage of the fact that people love to talk at meetings. But today, what I want to do is I want to flip that around and show you how you can use not talking to communicate effectively. And to do this, we're going to cover 4 points. Your talking points, the crocodile, passing the football, and the back slap. Most people generally, routinely, provide talking points to their SESs and their general officers at executive level meetings. But those same people rarely prepare their own talking points. Listen, as an action officer, you need to know what points need to be made in a meeting to convey your message. Now, these don't have to be wordsmithed to death, but you need to know what points need to be made. Now, you're not going to get enough time to make all these points, but that's not what this list is for. The list is so that you can check points off as somebody else makes them, and maybe even write down who it was who supported your point. I mean, if they're making the same points that you want communicated, they're probably an ally. You see, the list is part of the wisdom of the crocodile. A crocodile is this ancient ambush predator, and he's willing to wait a really long time until the moment is right to strike. And when he does, he is direct, quick, and forceful. In a lot of these meetings, you're going to have to do the same thing. You're only going to get one really good opportunity to make a point, and it's likely to be the first time you speak in the meeting. So you want to make it count. You can't be piping up all the time, or you prevent other people from talking, and they start to tune you out. Now, remember that thing about how people who talk a lot tend to think that a meeting went well? You want to use a different standard. It's not important how much you talk. It's how many of your points get made without you having to talk at all. Just as an aside, when I was a director, I would get these action officers who were real wallflowers, and this crocodile technique really connected with them. They weren't comfortable dominating a meeting, but if all they had to do was strike at the right moment, they felt a lot better. Now, there's another technique that helps you control the flow of a meeting without being too obvious. I call this passing the football, and some of you will think of it as passing the conch or passing the talking stick, but I prefer the word football because it captures the fact that this is part of a synchronized maneuver. In the simplest terms, when you stop talking, there's this little race to see who gets to speak next. And the people who are most motivated to win that race are the people who are going to disagree with you. But the last thing you want is someone squashing one of your points the second after you've made it. So you short-circuit the race by passing the point to somebody else in the meeting, preferably someone who's in control of the meeting and an ally. For example, you might say, well, we might consider grapefruit as an option. Mr. Johnson? Now, anybody who disagrees with grapefruits has to face the impromptu coalition of you and Mr. Johnson. Plus, if Mr. Johnson backs the idea of grapefruits as an option, sometimes you'll pick up a third person, and now you got quite the coalition going without much work. Okay, so you've got your talking points, you speak only when necessary, and when you're done speaking, you're going to pass to the right person. And now you're going to cement all of this with some good old-fashioned nonverbal communication, because the goal here is to get your points made as clearly as possible with as little talking as necessary. So, if somebody makes a point off your checklist, you want them to know you support them. You make eye contact, you nod along, you might even give them a thumbs up. It lets the room know where you stand, but more importantly, it lets them know that they are not alone. Now, I will warn you that sometimes they're going to throw the football at you in a desperate bid for support. But don't waste airtime unless it's necessary. Just say something like, couldn't have said it better myself. Mr. Johnson? I do keep one special arrow in my quiver for unique situations. Sometimes somebody makes a point that supports my position, but wasn't on my list of talking points. Or somebody who I thought was an adversary makes a point that supports me. I make it a little more obvious that I'm supporting those guys. I might say, oh, that's a really good point. Or if they're sitting close to me, I might reach over and touch them on the shoulder. And that brings us to the pat on the back. You see, there's going to be these times where you have to leave a meeting before it's over. But you don't want to lose your influence. You want somebody still in the meeting looking out for your interests. If you're a general or a colonel, you might have a backseater who can step in and fill that role. But if you're an action officer at a working group, the best you might be able to do is pick a proxy. You want to pick an ally, or at least somebody who's not going to stab you in the back the second you turn away. And then you put your hand on their shoulder and you say something like, "Keep them straight, Kevin." Or more explicitly, "Don't let them sign me up for anything." The important thing is you add a little influence to this person in your absence. Listen, these environments are going to push you a lot, and you don't have to do it all yourself. And now, here is a video to show you how to reward people who are working well with you.